Hey guys, today we are going to tackle lasagna. Now lasagna is one of my favorite recipes, especially this time of year. It makes for a great Sunday night dinner. Now it's also one of those recipes that can take you all day to put together. They really can be labor intensive, but not this one. I'm going to show you how to multitask to make this recipe a lot quicker and show you some of the tips and tricks I've found throughout making this a few times to speed it up a bit. So let me show you how to put it together. So the first thing you want to do is prepare the meat sauce. So in a large stock pot, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 cup of diced onion, 1/2 cup of diced carrot, and 1/3 cup of diced celery. You can go ahead and season that with a little salt and pepper to taste, and then you want to saute those vegetables just until they're nice and tender and fragrant. At that point, you're going to add 1/2 pound of ground beef. Now, traditionally, a meat sauce like this would have a combination of ground beef, ground veal, and ground pork. But for us here in the States, it can be really hard to find ground veal. So instead, my little cheat is to use 1/2 pound of Italian sausage. What I like about it is it's filled with lots of herbs and spices and is really flavorful too. So you're just gonna cut the sausage out of the casing and add that to your meat sauce. And then to that, you're gonna add 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then because for me, I can never have enough spices, I like to add a few of my own Italian spices to this mix as well. So I will do 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. And then I also like to add 1/4 teaspoon of fennel seeds. Now, it's not something that you need to go out and buy. If you don't have fennel seeds, they can be expensive. It's like $4 a bottle. But if you have it in the spice rack, go ahead and add it because it will add a really nice anise flavor to the meat. And then you want to brown both meats. And I would definitely go in there with a wooden spoon and cut it up and make sure that the meats are combining. And then once your meat is fully cooked through, you're gonna add 1 cup of white wine. Now, if you don't drink, you could swap the wine for a cup of chicken broth or a cup of vegetable broth. And you just wanna let the meat simmer in the broth or your wine just until it reduces down and you don't see that much liquid, so about 1/3. Then you're going to add a can of diced tomatoes and a can of tomato sauce. And then you're also gonna add 1/4 cup of tomato paste, just to give it a really nice rich tomato flavor. And then the final step is to add 2 cloves of minced garlic. Then you can just stir that up, making sure that all those flavors are incorporated. And then we are going to set that aside on simmer for 30 minutes. Now don't worry, we have some other things that we can do during that time. And what will end up happening is once we're ready for the tomato sauce will be ready. Now we're gonna make the second part of this recipe, the bechamel sauce. Now, there are some debates that I have with my father, who is an Italian American, about lasagna. And he swears that lasagna is not lasagna unless it has ricotta cheese in it. I prefer a bechamel sauce, especially with a meat-based lasagna like this. But I wanna know, all of my Italian subscribers, is ricotta cheese traditional for lasagna? Come on, Vincenzo, I know you're watching. You need to tell me, is this traditional or not? I know you'll give me the real deal. So in a large skillet, we're gonna add 3 tablespoons of butter. Once that starts to melt down and get foamy, you're gonna add 3 tablespoons of flour. And you're gonna mix that flour up with a whisk, allowing it to cook for about a minute. And at that point, we are going to slowly add 3 cups of milk, whisking all the while. So you just wanna let your sauce simmer. And as it simmers, it will start to also thicken. And this is what we want. We want a really nice, thick, velvety sauce. And once it reaches that stage, we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, a little pinch of nutmeg, and then this isn't very traditional, but I do like to add 2 teaspoons of fresh thyme into my bechamel sauce. Because what will happen is it'll start to infuse that bechamel sauce with this really beautiful savory flavor. And then you're also gonna add 2 cloves of minced garlic. And then you're just gonna whisk that together and you'll see you'll have this beautiful sauce on your hands. And by the time you kind of went through all of this with the chopping and the mincing and the whisking, your tomato sauce will be ready. So you can set that aside. So now you have your 2 sauces ready to go. And now we are going to talk about the most important part, the noodles. Typically with lasagna, what is so labor intensive are the noodles, because you have to end up boiling the noodles, letting them dry, patting them down, and it can take a ton of time. Now, yes, there are the no-boil noodles, and those are good. Like if you're in a pinch, I think that those actually work okay. What I don't really love about them is that they soak up a lot of the moisture. So you end up with a noodle that gets really sort of inflated and then sucks up all of the sauce, so you can end up having a really dry lasagna. What I love instead, and and it works like a charm, and there's no boiling needed, are the fresh lasagna sheets. They will give you a much lighter lasagna, and it is 10 times easier because there is no boiling needed. Even if the package says to boil it for a few minutes, you really don't need to, because all of the sauce is going to actually boil these noodles in the oven because it ends up sitting in there for an hour. So it works perfectly, not to worry. So you're gonna get out a lasagna pan, and you do wanna make sure that it's nicely greased just so that our noodles aren't gonna stick to the bottom. And we are gonna take a nice generous ladle of our bechamel sauce and put that on the bottom. Then you're gonna add a layer of the lasagna noodles. Then you're gonna take a full ladle of meat sauce and add it to each noodle. So kind of like 4 quadrants of meat sauce. And on top of the meat sauce, you're gonna do a 1/4 cup of the bechamel sauce on each quadrant. And then here comes the cheese. You're gonna add a 1/2 cup of freshly grated Italian blend cheese. I think that's the best one to get because you get a lot of flavor and a lot of gooiness. And then you're gonna repeat this process 2 more times. So you wanna have 3 layers. And then on your final layer, you're gonna end up with the meat sauce, the bechamel sauce, and instead of a 1/2 cup of cheese, you're gonna put a full cup of cheese. So I know it sounds like a lot of cheese, but you'll thank me in the end when you have a nice, gooey, bubbly lasagna. And then the final step is just to put a little freshly cracked pepper and a little bit more Italian seasoning on top. You're gonna place this in a 325-degree Fahrenheit oven for about 50 to 55 minutes. And now one of the things about this lasagna is once you start to cut into it, and I would really recommend cutting it down the middle and then cutting it across, because you're basically just looking for those lasagna noodle seams. That will make it really easy to cut, and then cut those quadrants in half. Now, this lasagna may not get awards for the prettiest looking thing, but I am telling you, it is the most delicious tasting thing. So don't worry if it's a little flopsy-mopsy. That's part of its charm. And to serve, I like to pair this lasagna with a tossed green salad and a delicious glass of red wine. And one of my new favorite sources for wine, if you guys don't already know about it, is Winc. Do you know about this company? It is a wine subscription box where you sign up and you give all your flavor profiles, and then every month you get 4 new bottles of wine to try. So if you like wine and you want to know more about it, I will leave all the information in the description. So there you have it, one of my favorite Sunday night dinners, a classic homemade lasagna. I hope you guys give this one a try and let me know what you think. I think you will find lasagna is well worth the effort when you take the time to make it from scratch. All right, you guys, I hope you subscribe for more quick and easy recipes, and I will see you back here next week for another one. Until then, bye.
Squilly bop, shoo ba doo da. Yeah.